Hi, and welcome back to our virtual tour of Ann Arbor. A personal note here, since 1962, I have walked Ann Arbor's diverse streets and avenues as a resident, graduate student, visiting professor, lecturer. I must have passed this magnificent building scores of times. It was always in my peripheral vision, but I never experienced it. My guess is that I'm not alone. Next time you walk by 423 South 4th Avenue, stop, forget your concerns, and breathe in the beauty and intent of this magnificent structure and those who serve. Of course, I'm talking about Bethlehem United Church of Christ, and it was built in 1894. So let's take a look at the history of this magnificent church. The history of Bethlehem United Church of Christ begins with the German Protestant immigration to the Michigan Territory in 1830. Though most of the immigrants accepted the opportunity of hearing the Word of God preached in English churches, they wished to worship their own way in their own language. So it was that in January 1833, a letter was written to the Basel Mission House in Switzerland, largely supported by South Germans, asking for them to send a minister to Michigan. Basel Mission House selected a young student by the name of Frederick Schmid. So on August 26, 1833, Pastor Schmid preached his first sermon to 33 families who had gathered in the woods west of Ann Arbor. Thus began Bethlehem Church, the first German Protestant church in Michigan. Because the church was growing beyond the limits of the church home at First in Washington, it was decided to build a new church. On January 2nd, 1894, the cornerstone was laid for the current sanctuary portion of our church. This is from Bethlehem United Church of Christ. So it was laid for the current sanctuary portion of our church on 4th Avenue. On January 19th, 1896, the beautiful sanctuary was dedicated. This was the third building that Bethlehem Church had erected in a span of 63 years. The building was an imposing edifice, surely the most beautiful church building in Ann Arbor, but also a symbol of the sacrificial spirit of the courageous faith of the congregation. And again, that's a write-up from Bethlehem United Church of Christ on the internet. So just take in how gorgeous this church is. And again, I'm amazed when I take a look at all of those stones that were laid individually to create these beautiful buildings in Ann Arbor. Just amazing. Remarks from people who saw the photo: love the church, great people. Somebody else: the stained glass windows are beautiful also. Somebody else said, I have a crucifix made of that church's old doors. Awesome piece of Ann Arbor history. Somebody else: so glad to have this picture of the beautiful church I go to. It is beautiful. I'll also tell you from a photography standpoint that when you stand in front of this church, you can't see it this way. You can't even back up far enough because you've got the street curve and then you have houses. But with a really good wide-angle lens and some patience, I was able to capture in one frame this magnificent building. Somebody else said, again, I so appreciate the fact that my church is featured. The perspective for 1894, what was happening in the world. First, U.S. polio epidemic breaks out in Rutland, Vermont. What was happening in Germany? Carl Benz of Germany received U.S. patent for gasoline-driven auto. Elwood Haynes successfully tests one of the first U.S. autos at, you better fasten your seatbelt here. It was going 6 miles per hour. Also that year, Indian chiefs from the Sioux and Onondaga tribes met to urge their people to renounce Christianity and return to their old Indian faith. And it was buried for years and years and years. But in that year, 6,000 Armenians are massacred massacred by Turks in Kurdistan. So that's a perspective, that's a look. I encourage you the next time you're walking down the street to take in the gorgeous beauty of this church, and if it's open, to walk in, and if services are scheduled, to schedule yourself to attend a service at this magnificent church. All right, thank you so much. And again, just push the button to subscribe and you'll be notified ahead of time, or the moment that the next iconic Ann Arbor location is posted. All right, thank you so much. Bye-bye.